And welcome everyone to another OSR tabletop. Myself here, Richard GM Bloodworth. I'm going to be talking about a number of different game systems, so that's why I'm going with Game Master today. But as we go on to hitting several different topics throughout this live stream, it's kind of an open mic, so I will be inviting people to come in much earlier than usual. But I am going to talk a little bit about my gaming from this previous week, as well as some things going on, in within the tabletop role playing game community, if we want to call it that. And I'm going to jump right to the chat and see who's in. I know I noticed one of my players, Tim, is already in here. So, yo, Timmy, how's it going? Good to see you here. And I want to put the chat where I can see all the chat on the screen. There it is. That way I can see the chat on the screen as it's popping up as well. So yeah, it's really been a great week as far as, actually, I don't like that there. So I'm going to change that again. It's been a great week so far for myself in the game. Hey, Meridor, another one of my players. So I got my players coming on in, and we've been talking a lot, and we've been actually planning quite a bit for my September Castles and Crusades campaign that is going to be set in the city of Greyhawk. So it's my first. It is my first urban centered campaign that I will be doing, and really, really focusing on doing as much of the adventuring in the city itself. And I'm doing a variety of things with that, from finding these really cool detailed maps that are obviously fan generated maps that are out there on the internet. You can find them. Most of them use World Anvil, but probably other programs as well for great map making. And Encarta is probably another one. And just taking a look at it and taking a look at the wealth of information that is out there for Greyhawk, including Greyhawk City more specifically, and then looking at the timeline, and there are several people that I follow that are absolute scholars when it comes to Greyhawk. So I'm talking about Joseph Block, the Greyhawk Grognard. I have several of his books. I know he has some more that I'm certainly going to pick up when I see him at our convention in June. I'm absolutely going to buy those. Then there's also Jay Scott from Lord Kazumbo, who puts out really incredible stuff as well. And he is part of the team that is working along with Luke Gygax, and so they will be producing some Greyhawk material going forward as well. I actually saw an announcement, and this was on. This might have been on, Professor Dungeon Master's Dungeon Craft, where he was talking about. If it wasn't him, it was maybe Nerd Immersion might have been talking about it as well. And I know Joseph Block did, where they were talking about this franchise model that Wizards of the Coast is going to go into, where they're basically farming out some portions of their IP for second and third party publishers to work on and produce things, and then they filter it back to Wizards of the Coast, and if they approve, it gets published. And so they're doing most of the second and third party publishers are doing most of the creative aspects of it, and then just getting approval for it to then be, get the D&D logo slapped on it, and then they put it out there. They're able to publish it. Now, I'm sure that there is some kind of a limited licensing fee that goes involved with that, but we'll wait and see what happens with it there. So, I mean, I was in previous live streams. I was pretty adamant about, I'm not going to be purchasing these things from Wizards of the Coast so long as Wizards of the Coast still has a disclaimer on the drive through RPG products from TSR's era of products, and I'm pretty much standing by that. It would take a lot more on the part of Wizards of the Coast to bring me to the point that I'm buying something even from a third party person. I want to see those changes clearly made there. I want to see that products that are going to be set in the world of Greyhawk are true to the lore of AD&D First Edition's world of Greyhawk. I'm not even extending that into Second Edition. I want it to be original world of Greyhawk lore being put out there in new products. So anyway, I'm going to hit some of Timmy's comments here, and let's see. He wrote here, "Been crazy here. Had a pipe blow while the family was out. The internet go out on the same day. Good thing I was able to turn off the water relatively quickly." Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. That craziness going on, and yeah, it's always a thing. I certainly I have an issue or had an issue. We still haven't figured out what we're going to do with it with our air conditioning in the home. And the home is 25 years old. And so it's the original stuff. And, they're coming in and they're like, oh, well, for $28,000, we can take care of everything. And it's like, oh, Lord, it's like, it's not fun. It's almost like owning an old car. Owning an older home is is a bit of a pain in the ass too, because it does get very costly. So, and things just start going like it's like, oh geez, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do a new roof maybe. Um, you know, it's not fun. It's not fun owning a home, especially an older home, especially if you've been the only owner of that home, and then you start seeing these things happen. It's like, oh geez, you know what, I could have done this 5 6 years ago before I was retired. If I kind of knew this was all going to start dropping, as the house clicked over 20 years old. But again, it just is. Yeah, when you say old homes were built better, but I think they're talking about homes that were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, possibly 70s and whatnot. But an old home now built in the year 2005 isn't kind of the same um, reliability that you might have had. I mean, these things have lasted 25 years. I really can't complain too much. It's just um, to have these things kind of hit all at once, because I just wasn't aware that, hey, approaching 20 years, you should start doing these things. Again, it's, I'm probably more hopeful that, my daughters get married off soon, and then we can downsize and go into a new living situation. But anyway, um, so we'll be looking forward to Monday and Tuesday games. Yeah. Well, Tuesday we are up and running. This past Thursday night's game, I wasn't available to do it. We had some things come up. My daughters were off at a dance competition, and there was a chance that I would have to go and pick them up or do something along those lines. Plus, my wife didn't want to be left alone. If I'm up here, running a game for 3 hours, and then she's sitting downstairs alone, and was like, all right, I won't leave you alone. It's but I don't even think some of the players had shown up for Thursdays. I have been having an issue with Thursday night games. Um, just like I'm conflating. I'm conflating my Thursday and my Saturday, my last night's game. I'm talking about my last night's game. My Thursday night game didn't happen either, but that's not my game. That is Shadow and Sun's game. About my last night game, sorry. Uh, and it is um, it's a difficult thing, So like my Saturday night OSC game, which we're really having a great time with, but I knew that I was going to run into some, issues with conventions coming up, and I'm going to talk about conventions as well. Conventions coming up, so this upcoming this upcoming Saturday, I have a convention. And then it's the following Saturday. I have another convention. I will be talking about those in some detail during this stream to encourage you to go if you have a chance. And I'll see what is still opened up for games that you can hop into. But yeah, old homes were built better. Yes, I already hit that. 1942. Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, we were, and that's like I said, I had a thing come up, and I don't think when I popped in, I know Tim was there, and I don't know if anybody else was. Edgelord, if you were in there, like I didn't see. We weren't supposed to play last night. I I'm not sure if we were or not. All right, but. But we couldn't have last night anyway. So we are going to come back to our OSC Saturday, not next weekend or the following weekend. It'll be the weekend after that. And we're going to have a new player in as well. So we should be up to 5 players in that group now, once again. So Bo from Bo Paints Minis is going to be joining us in in that Saturday night game. He's been looking over the materials. Um, well, it ended up being canceled anyway. But thanks, thanks anyhow. And yeah, it was the next 2 that are going to be canceled because I'm at conventions. Those 2. Speaking of conventions, I'm just going to bring them up now. So the first convention is next weekend and next Saturday, and I'm going to share that one here. Okay, so here we have the OSRCon, and I believe I can blow this up for you so that you can start to see it. But I can see it better from this screen anyhow. And oh yeah, this blew it up for me as well. So it is April 18th, just the 18th. It is in Chelmsford / Lowell Elks Lodge. So it's at the lodge there. It is being hosted by Galahad Games. It is $25. I don't know what the at the door price is, but the regular attendee is $25. Sometimes there's like a little bit more at the door. I know he's fully booked now, so I believe the badges are sold out. Yeah, so the badges are sold out, and so we have that. So anyway, my gaming for this. So I will go to my schedule and then I'll go over. So now I am only playing at this convention. I'm leaving my home at 4:30 in the morning so that I can catch this Dragon Slayer, RPG game session, and this is being run by Tom Wilson from Throw Eye Games or Throw E Games, and he's a great content creator. He's a convention organizer himself for ShireCon that is in September. He does a lot of stuff for Shadow Dark, but when I saw this and I was like, oh wow, he's a special guest at this convention as well. And so I was glad I grabbed the last of the tickets that was available. And I'll see. I think like Takata was playing in this game as well, and perhaps some others that I already know. For some reason, the way he has this set up is that the listings are you don't see who's actually playing in the games. But this was his first time setting this thing up, so I'm sure that he'll have that fixed for the next time. And then I am playing in Hyperborea Echoes of Chromarium, and this is being run by Mark Marita, who is the brother of the convention organizer for the OSR Con. All right, so I'm really looking forward to that. Now, Mark is a great adventure writer himself. He wins. He's won the last 2 years the adventure writing contest at ShireCon. And so when I saw I had the opportunity to play in one of his games, I'm like, awesome. I will jump in on that. And so that is my conventions or my convention for, for next Saturday. And so that's why it's going to be a no OSC next Saturday. So then the following week, I might as well just keep up with the tone here. The following week, I am going to be at Rising Phoenix. So I'm just going to come out and go to Rising Phoenix. I'm going to open this one up here. And now I'm going to share once again and go over Rising Phoenix with you. So here we have Rising Phoenix, and I can expand this here, but I'm going to shift over to here. And so this is on April 23rd, 24th, 25th, all the way through the 26th. However, I am not going to get there until the 24th. I'm going to stay Friday and Saturday night. And my schedule for this is, so my schedule here. Now I am running games here. So on Friday, I am running Shards of Ymir, a Shadow Dark adventure that this will be probably the 12th time that I'm running this adventure. So I have this adventure down pretty well. All right. It's a lot of fun. Every time that I've run it, and across two different game systems as well. I ran it for Conan 2D20, which was the way it was originally written, and then for Shadow Dark, the last 8 or 9 times was for Shadow Dark. I've got a full table here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So all 6 people. Oftentimes I have room for a 7th in case you're really looking for a, if you're looking for a table or whatnot. So I can always squeeze one more in there if possible. I know that's possible at this convention. But that's fully booked as of now. Then this is a convention first for me. All right, I am running a Shadow Dark tournament adventure written by Scott Legault, the convention organizer, and it's called A Small Favor. Again, Shadow Dark. So I'm glad I'm only doing one, pretty much one game system the entire weekend. There's only one Fallout game that I'll be running, but the rest of the time I'll be just running this. And you can see there is more room for people. All right, so there are still 12 tickets available for this. It is an additional cost to participate in this. So it is an additional cost of $20 per ticket. And that is because you're going to be getting a free copy of the adventure. Actually, you're paying for the copy of the adventure, once the tournament is over with. And then there's other things that go along with the additional cost of running a Shadow Dark tournament. All right, so this is officially sanctioned by Arcane Library. All right, so they're aware of it, they're fully supported it, and there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be additionally attached to this. This event. It's 8 tables, 5 players per table. This one I can bring extra people in, so it is what it is. But I can look at all of these attendees. Here are all of the hosts. Some of these people I actually know myself. I've met them, on a number of occasions. So we have Chet Minton, who is an artist. He does a lot of great work. Then we go to myself, obviously, and then Ron Meisker is the organizer for Philadelphia Area Game Expo. Scott is also running a table. I think he's actually not running a table, but he's just in the room organizing the whole thing. And then here is the long list of attendees. I don't know how they're going to be assigned, to the tables. We'll wait and see. I know some of these people as well. That's the other great thing about these conventions that I do go to, and that is that they are you get to see a lot of the same people again. Then on Saturday morning, and I'll check. I'll look here to see if there's any other comments. On Saturday morning, I am running Whispers from the Crypt. This is my own adventure. Again, Shadow Dark. I see I'm fully booked. Actually, I have one person on waiting list. All right, and I know Sander. Like I said, some of these people I know. Pretty sure I've had Jeffrey at my table before too. So yeah, this is a really cool adventure. Kind of creepy. It should be a lot of fun. All right, and it's an adventure I've written. I wrote a couple years ago, and I've run it in several different game systems. And my most recent play test was with Shadow Dark, and it went really well. So that is that game, and then my Fallout adventure. So this is Fallout 67. I created the location, built it within the Fallout lore. It is set in Oneonta, New York, which is where Vault 67 is, and it's an adventure that is called The Awakening. Basically, if you know anything about Fallout, people sometimes wake up in the vault, and then they have to, either escape from it or get out into the world and encounter the world. And that's what this is really centered on, is that awakening time frame. It'll be a combination of pre-gens. Pre-gens will be available, and then the players can also, if they choose, create their own at the time as well. I see that we have I have a lot of women playing at this table, so that's going to be really quite an experience for me. All right, I have a single female player in my regular games. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 women of the 6 players. 4 are going to be women. That is going to be really, really exciting. Because they bring a different dynamic to the table, and it'll be a lot of fun to see the way that they play. Just like the last time I ran this at CNY, I had a father and a son, and that son was probably like, early teens or maybe even just slightly younger than that. And he had a ball, and it was a great, great experience. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. So that should be a lot of fun as well. Let's see who else we have here. Hey, Stephen, welcome. Oi. And so let's see. So those are my 2 conventions coming up these next 2 weekends. And so, I will be doing some. I might do some live streaming from the second convention because I'm going to be there over 2 nights. So yeah, I'll almost definitely be doing some, some streaming from there. And I also have some gaps in my schedule during that convention that I will be looking to talk to people out there. Like I have on that Friday. I have from 5 to 7 p.m. So I have like 2 hours in between there. And then on Saturday, I have between 12 and 1 o'clock, I have a full hour in between my two games on Saturday. And then I wrap up Saturday evening at 5 p.m. Um, and then I'll probably hang out for like another hour or so immediately following, and look to get home by 9 p.m. So I'll probably leave sometime around 5:30 or so, and see. Hopefully, I get home, pretty quickly. So anyway, so that's my convention stuff going forward. Um, so gaming. So I am still running my Dragon Slayer campaign on Tuesday evenings. As I mentioned, some of my players are here in the chat already, and they are delving into a. They're going to be delving into a temple. Um, the cult of Orcus has taken over this temple, and they are going to be pushing inside this temple in order to basically eradicate it. They were sent in on like a search and destroy kind of mission there. So um, it's going to be something that I anticipate us taking quite a few sessions to go through. And when I say quite a few, at least 6 sessions or so to go through, and and so we're preparing ourselves for. It's not quite a mega dungeon, but it does have quite a bit that that they will have to delve into, and I'm hoping that there are still all three pillars of role playing are represented in here between discovery, which is exploration. There certainly will be combat and some social interaction because there will be not just amongst themselves but other opportunities to socially interact with others inside inside the complex that they're going into. I'll just leave it at that without giving too many spoilers. But I will still try to make it where it's not just a slog fest of fighting and doing not much else other than. Um, and I want them to learn a lot about, the world around them as well, and then finish that off with like some next steps, which will probably be wrapped up by late June. So let's see what else I've been going on for. Let me throw up the invite in case anyone wants to jump in, and I'll see. Yeah, there's 10 people watching now, um, at least on the one. How come that didn't work? There it goes. So if you want to join in, you're welcome to. And so video wise, so like I said, this was the weekend gaming for me. So I started going through, continuing my shelf tour. So I'm going through each of those units behind me, and I started hitting into the section. I had finished up Venture Satanis a couple of days ago, and now I started going through the RPG Pundit section of that thing, and I started off with Lion and Dragon as a short video first, and that absolutely exploded, right? So like well over 1,300 views on it. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of views on that particular short video. So I was like, all right, I can see that were really interested in this, and then I looked to see, um, when was the last time I actually
Hey,
covered that game, and it happened to be like 7 years ago when Lion and Dragon first came out. So I was like, wow, that's I need to update that video, and that video did pretty well too. I was hoping that more people checked it out. So if you haven't checked that out yet, certainly go there and check it out. I'd like that to hit into the 200s, 300s, or higher, obviously. But then I followed it up with another short video, another one of RPG Pundit's video products, and it was Dark Albion, and then the Cults of Chaos was another one that got huge following. Still a short video, and then tomorrow's short is going to be on Swords and Caravan. Tim, I haven't heard you yet.
hey,
Oh, okay, I can hear you now.
yeah.
How's it going?
Oh, good, good. Little tired. It's been a really hectic few days for me. I've been babysitting a dog because family went off to vacation.
Right.
She was not happy. She whined a lot.
Oh, yeah. Dogs are like that when you go and they or when part of the family goes away and everything. I know when my daughters and my wife go away for, like, usually like one of my older daughters, like, dance competitions or whatever. She's a choreographer. She doesn't dance anymore, but she has a team that dances. So when they used to go away, it would our dog, who passed away last, not this past February, the February before that. I used to stay home with the dog, and the dog used to get, the dog was all messed up for that weekend or so that they were away. So yeah,
Yeah.
I know the experience.
Mm. But hey, looking forward to a lot of the gaming that I get to do this week at least.
Yeah, yeah. So you're in a Monday night game with Shadow and Sun, correct?
No, not Shadow. Uh, Bubba's game. DMP
Oh,
with
okay.
Bubba.
No, I've never met Bubba before, so
You've probably seen him on
he's welcome to
James's.
come in. I haven't met him before, or at least I don't believe I have.
He's usually on James. He sometimes hops on James chat. Or,
Yeah, but I go on James's chat once in a while too,
eh.
and I still haven't come across Bubba, or maybe he has a different name when he's on James's chat. I don't know.
No, he uses it. I know. I've been on there with him.
Yeah, yeah. So I missed him.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, he's always welcome to come on a Sunday night, with me. Um, and my convention schedule is not going to interfere with my Sunday night live streams. I'll actually be doing convention recaps on my Sunday night live streams for the next 2 weeks. That will be the content there. But anyway, so yeah, my gaming is what is he running for you guys on Mondays?
Dragon Slayer. So I
Okay.
got two Dragon Slayer games in a
Yeah,
row.
you got two Dragon Slayer games, and yeah, so I'm looking to see. Um, Greg Gillespie is going to be at CNY in June, and that's the CNY RPG Con in June, and I'll see if he has anything new for Dragon Slayer, at the table at that time. Um, so looking forward to that, and if not, I'll at least bring my copy of Dragon Slayer and have him sign it. So
Yeah.
I'll have a signed copy of it, and then bring it home again.
One
But
thing is,
my gaming, as you know, my gaming is Dragon Slayer on Tuesdays. It was on alternating Thursdays, Deadlands Second Edition, um, and there's room in that game too. That's Thursday nights. We've been having trouble, like everybody, kind of clicking and getting in on that, on
yeah.
time, or even showing up. Thursday night has been my real issue of getting everybody in there, and I know Shadow and Sun was having the same issue. Um, with his game. Thursday nights, there's something about Thursday nights that's kind of taboo or something. It's just an odd night, I guess. Probably have a better time getting more people to show up on a consistent basis on a Friday night than the Thursday night. Maybe it's just because it's such a work night and people are probably shot by that time too. But anyway, and then my OSC, which, like I said, we've been having a great time with it. Um, it's a nice thematic campaign with everyone playing a dwarf, and so it becomes that becomes a major component of both the role playing and then the adventures are going to always have some kind of a connection to dwarven culture and whatnot, and so it's just a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to continue that. That up until they hit their level caps at least, with which an OSC and that is like level 14ish or so, I believe, or 13. So yeah, I'm definitely looking for them to go full length, full campaign mode with those player characters, getting them up to if they don't die, of course. And in the last session, we had two player characters did die. They were really lucky that the priest at the location was actually a 10th level priest, randomly rolled, and and he had access, obviously,
Yeah.
to a raised dead, and was
Oh
able to
man,
raise two of them up.
our cleric or not a cleric, our mage in the Monday game got lucky because of that too. He
Yeah.
died. He died to a manticore. We had to drag his body all the way to the nearest big town, which was
Hmm.
like over a week away, and we were just barely able to sneak in the time to res him with
Yeah.
with it. It's just like he was basically res on the final day of him being able to
Yeah.
be possible.
Yeah. So it was like I said, it all came down to a dice roll. Um, if that that cleric wasn't a 10th level cleric, they basically were not going to. They were going to lose play two player characters. That's for sure. And I'll be like, all right, re-roll a new one. So, um, but glad that turned out the way that it did, and it looks the fact that we were going to be off 2 weeks because of the conventions and everything, it works out perfect because the recovery time from Raised Dead in OSE is 2 weeks time. I was like, all right, it works out perfect.
Huh.
Uh, so
I
looking
think,
forward to that.
I think in
Um,
Dragon Slayer it was like 3 or something like that.
yeah, Dragon Slayer might be longer, but anyway, um, and then as I mentioned, and as you know as well, I'm really starting to gear up my Castles and Crusades campaign for September. So
Oh,
yes,
I'm looking forward to that.
I am already preparing for a new campaign in September, and then I'm going to be looking for other game systems that I probably will run during that time as well. So, oh, I just ran a GM plus one with the OG GM for Villains and Vigilantes Second Edition. We played Thursday. Um, Thursday early afternoon, so we played from about 2 o'clock to really it was a session zero. He finalized his character, learned a little bit about the world and the situation that they're in, and then next Thursday we are going to be running um, his first adventuring, in it. So it should be a lot of fun, and and we will be meeting a little bit earlier than we did this past Thursday. We have a time zone difference, so there was a little bit of confusion there as well. But yeah, I'm looking to do a couple of those GM plus ones, and that's something that I open up to my members. As they get first dibs on those, and I do have several different openings throughout the week where those are short 2-hour sessions. They don't have to be V&V. They could be any other of the games that I do have. Um, it's just that right now the V&V was kind of easy for me to run very episodic because it runs kind of like a cartoon, a Saturday cartoon 30-minute kind of session that takes 2 hours, but still like
Yeah,
you know like a TV episode kind of thing. Let's see.
kind of like watching Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Mark the Shark. Good to see you.
Hey,
Um, so yeah, and then next year I'll be when I say next year I'm talking September. I look at my gaming year to run from September to the end of June, really. So September to July 1st, basically. And then I only have one break in that time frame. I've decided that like mid December through the end of January. So for that 6 weeks, I'm not running anything. I might just be planning for the campaigns that I had already been running. Because between family and doing all kinds of stuff, that 6 weeks just becomes a time when no one's really looking to do anything, or just have too much other stuff going on during that 6 week time. So, and then my other break is July through probably about mid August, possibly the end of August. So I just say all of July and August, I'm not gaming. I am prepping new campaigns, maybe doing some writing, and and then getting my next full gaming year, September to June again. It's all set up and ready to roll. If anybody else wants to jump in, those are here. If anyone wants to um, pop in and talk about their gaming as well. So let's see what else has been going on. So
now
as I was, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Tim.
I was gonna say I am very looking forward to actually being able to play a Greyhawk game. Never got to yet, and the only other old school setting I got to play was in the Pool of Radiance.
Okay,
Hmm.
yeah, which is Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I know,
Um,
but it felt a lot different than the fifth edition version.
yeah, well, that's potentially good.
I
Plus, you're
felt a lot
playing a pretty cool class. So you're playing
arcane
a
thief.
an arcane thief, which is um, I think it's a really interesting class. It's the reason why when I went through the Adventurers Backpack, I was like, yeah, I want to make that available for somebody to play it, and they're pretty cool because they're not well liked by magic users for the most part.
I
You
can see
know,
why it would be fun having somebody steal everything from you.
well, yeah, yeah. So they're not well liked. They're basically failed magic user students, that got thrown out of their academies or whatnot, and and they ended up just basically becoming adventurers. They're not quite a thief, although they could get into a thieves guild. With their because a thieves guild would see some benefit to them. So yes, you will have the opportunity to join the Thieves Guild if you wish. Um,
I probably will.
yeah, and then because there isn't going to be like a guild of arcane thieves, it's unless at some point you create one, which would be cool too, but it should be a lot of fun. And I know another player that just signed on. He's going to be playing a warrior priest, which is another one of those classes that we
Yeah,
haven't used before. And we have room for one more that is either going to be um, a barbarian or a straight up fighter, and we'll see. But I'm capping that at 7 players. So we'll see how it works out. Right now, we have all bases covered because one of the players is playing an elf magi, which is basically like a OD&D or D&D basic elf. So it's both a fighter and a magic user, so dual class character.
Now, if it wasn't for the Arcane Thief, I would have probably played some kind of cleric. But
Yeah,
there's an
yeah,
Arcane
and we
Thief.
do
I'm
have a
like,
cleric in the group now too. So all bases covered.
yeah.
So we have a cleric, we have a rogue, we have a magic user, we have two different healers. Um, so the group should be pretty good. Let's see. Other things that I am considering for next year. So, like I said, like during the summer times, I take off, and this particular summer, I'm going to be mostly doing some writing. I want to get back to making some new adventures and bringing other adventures that I have to up towards publication, and so publishing them, whether it be on Drive Through RPG or some other way of publishing them. But that's something that I'm looking to do. And yeah, I'm looking for game systems that are very friendly to third party publishing, and that will be something that I'll be like, all right, I'm going to spend these next 2 months writing these two adventures for two different game systems, and hopefully I'll be able to get them, tied up and ready for publication by by the new year, so by January-ish, and then start play testing them, or whatever, into the second half of the year with these conventions. So other things in the news. So yeah, I'm looking for stuff that has not been too contentious. All right, because there's always stuff like when people are talking about other like YouTube channels and everything. Um, I like to focus on YouTube channels that I promote, or at least help to promote. And so there's been a couple of YouTube channels, large channels, that were like, "Hey, I'm closing up shop. I'm not going to I'm not going to be producing content anymore. I'm not getting the views that I used to get." And despite the fact that this one particular YouTuber has 170,000 subscribers, I would kill to have the number of views that he is getting, and then to come out and say, well, I'm just going to shut this thing down because it's not getting the same kind of views as it used to get. And it got me thinking about, well, if you're looking at this that we do here as a um, as like a business model and like a sole source of income or whatever, then yeah, I guess you could get to the point where it's like the revenue isn't coming in any longer, and so that becomes an issue, for you, and you kind of lose your steam in it. I know there's talk about like Critical Role, and Matt Mercer is just kind of, he's burnt out. He's not looking to do it. I know he's used a commentary like he wants to, pass the torch on to someone else. Um, and it's like he just doesn't have that fire in his belly, to continue on doing it. And I think that possibly, and yes, in some cases, some people are just greedy, or they crave that same level of attention that they were getting, and fail to realize that if you're building your whole channel around promoting a single game system, and a game system that has been around now since 2015, and you've done nothing but that game for up to as much as like a video every single day, if not more in some cases. It's like, those 500-600 pages of books do not have enough content to last you, for 3,000 videos. A total library of 3,000 videos on the same subject. It's like, no, there's only so many. Here's the best build to use, or something like that. It's just, you have to broaden your coverage. You should measure the attention you are getting in the quality, not quantity. Exactly. It's like, I've said frequently, um, when I get a lot of views on a particular video, I take a look at it. I want to see, what makes it, is this content something that, a lot of people really are interested in? And then I'll follow it up with some more, looking at that just to see, well, you're interested, I'm going to try to bring it to you. And then if it doesn't happen along those lines, or it kind of tapers off and everything, I run it through anyway, and then I move on to the next thing. And Hey, Robert, how's it going? You know, I just got your stuff in the mail 2 days ago, and I can't wait to start covering it and going through it. So it's good to see you. And yeah, I'm going to show it off. I'm sitting here. So here, I know I'm breaking like midstream, busting right out. So here was the box of the maps. All right, so came in a box just like this. The maps themselves, and the maps are absolutely gorgeous. And I'm sitting here wondering, where the heck, how am I going to put these on my shelf? How am I going to store these away? Um, for when I do use them, and but yeah, I can't wait to start doing like full coverage of your game system. So if you are not familiar, I know I'm jumping way uh, off the topic I was on, but into the majestic fantasy realms. So this is the Northern Marches. The huge book comes with those maps, and this is all part of his game system, which I think I have everything, but Rob, you can correct me. But here we have so here is the core rule book, the basic rules of the Majestic Fantasy RPG, and then it is how to make a fantasy sandbox. And Black Marsh is a complete setting. All right, so here we have Black Marsh, and then the Isle of Payade. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And the art is a 10, yes, is a 10 by 18 portfolios. And they're absolutely beautiful. So I can't wait to, they ship in flat, to my surprise. Oh, you didn't know that they would ship that way. I'm glad that they didn't put the book inside there. Initially I was like, oh, they sent it in two separate boxes. So you had to pay twice for the shipping and handling. But when I saw it, I'm just putting these. Actually, I'll just leave these over here. When I saw that how the maps were packed, I was I was glad that they were separate, because that big book would have been sliding back and forth, even with the packing that they put in there. It would have been sliding back and forth inside that box, and probably would have damaged the maps. All right, and so I was glad that it did come in two separate packaging. But yeah, I was really excited to get it. I was like, "Oh, cool!" It arrived, and I will start covering that sometime in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I'm getting ready for my conventions. So, but yeah, definitely getting to them. Really cool stuff. Yeah, let's get to some of your things here. So it's because they have two different facilities. The card printing is owned by Drive Through, and the book came from, I guess, elsewhere. I usually the books, like when I get books from Drive Through, they're usually getting printed in like Maryland. Um, I think Amazon uses a Maryland printer as well when you buy things from them. But anyway, looking forward to your reviews. Yes, they're coming along, and you are always welcome to come on anytime to talk about your stuff. Because really, it's a, I've often said, oh, I don't need any more, any more retro clones or anything like that. But just looking at, your materials and then the way that you're handling it, like, a real sandbox kind of play, that I was like, you know what, I want to get this one as a standout of that kind of play, and that's why I just grabbed everything that I could for it, and really looking forward to it. That is a game system that I will run, and that's something that I'm looking forward to for perhaps my September through June of next September. Certainly looking forward to it. So yeah, and you're welcome, like I said, to come on anytime, Robert, to check it out. Are you going to be going to any of these conventions coming up? I know often you've been at Shire Con, so hopefully I see you there. Um, but any others, if you happen to be going to any others, just put it in the chat there. I'd love to see you before September. So that would be cool if you're going to like the CNY RPG Con in Utica in June. That would be awesome. All right. So we're going to move on. So some other game systems that I'm looking to, yeah, WizardCon is, it's just out of my, well, for this year, no. Um, but yeah, so you're going to ones that are far. So WizardCon, I don't know. I'd really like to because I want to support Don and his thing, but it really is like a 13-hour drive for me to get there, and that's a tough thing to do. You'll be going to the Utica one next year, so I guess that would be 2027. That'll be awesome to see you there as well. But I'll see you at ShireCon, so that's going to be awesome. I'm going to bring one of your books. I want you to sign it. So I will bring at least the core book there to have you sign. But yeah, I'm always looking for game systems that I can adopt and then use them and run them for a good stretch of time. And then other times I look for game systems that I can do like quick one shots just to familiarize myself with them, like Fallout. After this year, I don't see myself, and when I say this year, I mean, yeah, 2026. I don't see myself running Fallout, too many times thereafter. Um, Really does depend on on how well this next convention game goes. If that goes really well again, then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to write another adventure for Fallout and go forward with that. That's a great system. It's a lot of fun to play, a lot of fun to run. Um, so I'm looking at OSC as being another one of my go-tos, and I'm making a return back to Castles and Crusades again because of all the new materials I just recently got from it that I think it does elevate it, and then just my wanting to get back to the Greyhawk setting, and I think Castles and Crusades is going to work well in that setting. Plus, Trollord Games is putting out a lot of stuff for from Gary Gygax's writings and everything over these next couple of weeks, months. that yeah, I'll be like, all right, I'm going to take stuff directly written from Gary Gygax and importing it into Castles and Crusades through Troll Lord Games. It's going to be awesome. So Tim, what? So I know you're running. You're playing. You're playing Dragon Slayer.
Yep.
You're in. You're in my game on Tuesdays. Are you with me on Thursdays for Deadlands?
Yeah. I was also in
Yeah,
Deadlands. Remember Johnny Robbins, the
yeah.
heck
So
club.
you're on Deadlands, and like I said,
Yeah.
I've been trying to get another player into that, but we're good for this Thursday. So we are running Deadlands this Thursday.
Yes.
Um, so and we could, because that other game, Barrows and Borderlands game, collapsed on Thursday night. Um, that could become an every Thursday thing.
Hmm.
Just like once I get to May, um, I was telling my other players in the Saturday night games that could actually go to every Saturday as well for May and June, and then we'll see what we do in September. Probably pick it up in September. Again, I bought into the last. The backer kit. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not a huge fan of Mega Dungeons, and so when I'm looking at the backer kit for Castle Zagig, or Zagig, I should say, it's first of all, it's expensive. It's like to get all four or five. I think it's five to get all five volumes. It's like $360, and for a Mega Dungeon, I just don't. I like writing my own stuff in between and doing other things. I really don't port in adventure modules. Um, you know, I might make a slight exception with my upcoming Greyhawk campaign, but even then, I'm just gonna really really alter them so much that they're basically going to be the maps of adventures and maybe some elements of the backstory, and the rest of it's going to be built into the campaign. So to run a mega dungeon, you kind of have to run it almost almost to the letter for it to kind of work, and you have to have your player character group at the right level to begin it. And I know from Joseph Block's um, Castle of the Mad Archmage, that which is basically Castle Greyhawk. Um, it's meant to start the players off at first level and work all the way up through 10, 11, 12, or whatever. So I already have it, and or at least the aspects of it, and I still haven't run even that in its entirety. I've only used like little pieces of it, fragmented all over the place. I really don't like um, running those big mega dungeon campaigns. So I didn't back it, and I don't see myself doing so. Even though I think it has a couple more days left, but I just don't see doing so. It's too expensive for me. Um, I'm not going to put 360 down on something I'm going to barely run. I'll look at their other content as they go forward. Um, I know they have some other projects that they're working on, different genres. They're working on a pirate genre, and that's a definite for me.
Pirate
If
themed
they come
John
out with something
game.
that's pirate based.
See, I've been talking to James. He's like, that's crazy. He doesn't like the pirate theme. I'm like, why not? Swashbuckling. I love the Age of Sail times.
Yeah, oh no, I absolutely love it. Um, I would jump all over it that would be a definite sell, especially if they made it like made it like a high fantasy kind of. Or I actually no, I'll correct that. Make it like a low fantasy,
Yeah.
sort of like the Conan's Queen of the Black Coast kind of things, and some of the other you know the pool of the black ones and those types of adventures and everything, or the adventures with Valeria on the on I forget what that was, like the flame knife was one short story, whereas with them
Oh,
with her.
I would say that I'd love it if it was a lot like Uncharted Waters, but on tabletop format.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, if they go there, all in, all in on that. So, but we'll see. We'll see what's coming out. Um, I know there's some other stuff coming out, some world building stuff, both from Gary Gygax and through Troll Lord Games, and then some other stuff that you know um, that I'm somewhat associated with. So that is like Agile Monk, and his son and daughter-in-law, I believe they're putting out some materials. I did that. I did that on my channel. Talked about that on my channel the other um, couple weeks ago. So let me just pull that up and talk about that. So it's from Fantasy Companions Workshop, and that is it's a world setting basically. So it's a toolkit as well, so it helps you create everything. And that was a month ago. Oh my gosh, that was a whole month ago that I ran that. And let me uh, let me just bring us to the. I got to bring up the title of it. So there we go. It's called Zendria, a world setting and lore guide. All right, so it's basically like a setting book and then a guide on how to implement these things. Bring them all together, create a true world setting, and looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be awesome stuff, and that should be launching fairly soon. I believe it was like, is it May 12th? Let's see. Let's see where it was. So I got so many things going on at one time. Um, let's see. I want to say it was May 12th that it's going to launch, but I will get back. I'll talk about it again next live stream. So anyhow, so let's get back to that topic. I get so excited to see Robert Connolly plop in that wanted to talk about his stuff. Um, yeah, so that large YouTube channels are coming out, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pack it up. I'm not getting the same views that I used to get, and again, as somebody who, yes, this is a hobby of mine. Yes, my channel is monetized. It's nice to make, you know, $80 a month, doing this or whatever. I pay $25 a month for, $20 a month for, for this, and so if I can squirrel away 40, $50 a month, um, it allows me to buy some stuff on Drive Through RPG, or it allows me to save up for a couple of months, and that will pay for a hotel room for one night so I can go to a convention and spend 2 days at a convention instead of just wrapping it up in one. And it's not a replacement. Well, I'm retired anyway, so I have a pension, so it's not something that I really have to wring my hands with, like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting as many views as I used to, or my it's not growing as fast as I want to. I do this because I enjoy doing it. I would do it even if I wasn't monetized. The monetization just, helps me buy some more stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not something that, I would, if it ended tomorrow, I'd still run my games. I'd still, probably just buy a little bit less every year. But for the most part, I would still go to a convention or two every year instead of five. So that's basically all that I need this for. They are, clearly people who are going to big cons and they're traveling long distances and they're spending their time at conventions that will cost them, you know, $2,000 for a weekend, and it's like, nope, that's not happening here, regardless. So I don't need that kind of attention from it. Um, I don't need the something. I don't need a profit margin to motivate me to do what I'm doing because I love doing what I'm doing. So I would still do it whether it was for free or not. Um, Basically it's, they're looking at it like, oh, the algorithm is hurting me. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know what, it's just not getting the same views. YouTube is not supporting D&D content anymore. I mean, there's an easy way to fix that, right? It's like, stop doing just D&D content. Yeah, it's 10 years now. Actually 11 years now since 5e came out. You're not going to sustain a channel, the interest in your channel, if you're still sticking with a game system that's been out for 11 years and you're saying the same stuff that the other 4 or 5 people with 100,000 plus subscribers. What do you think? They each have unique subscribers? No, they're all the same people following those same 5 channels. And they're eventually going to just wane off because there's not an interest in that game system anymore. And that's fine. You got to be willing to change it up and to move on. I've not had an issue with growth, a sustained growth over time, because I am covering a lot of different game systems. So is it ever going to explode like the new D&D is going to come out and all of a sudden, people are getting 10,000 views on a video? Never, not in my scope of things that I can see. But I don't need that. So I'm perfectly happy covering some of my obscure games. I'm going through some of my more controversial, authors right now. So I did Venture Satanis, and now I'm on the RPG Pundit, and I forget who's going to be next up in my list on my number 14 here. No, on this shelf here. Once I'm done with the RPG Pundit, then I go to Gangbusters BX, which is Mark Hunt. He's the least controversial person that you probably encounter. And then it goes on Dragonbane is the last thing on that particular shelf. Then I move on to my shelf 15, and that is going to be um, that's going to be like Rob Conley stuff and Shadow Dark and all of that. That is my upper one, and then it goes below that, and that will probably push me like a couple weeks. Then I get into some really cool stuff, some controversial stuff as well. So yeah, the next couple months is a lot of content in my short videos, just going through those things. And then if those explode, that's when I will go back and take a deeper look at that system. So yeah, things have been going really well. I've been having a lot of fun with the videos I have been doing. I've been having a lot of fun learning about some of these new game systems, and trying to go through some of that huge collection of mine and trying to run as many of them as I possibly can throughout the course of a year, whether I'm doing one shots with them or convention play with them or short form or long form campaigns. That's basically what I've been looking to do. Plus, at the same time, not burning myself out by running too much. Um, yeah, it
Uh,
certainly is. And hey, Jason, how's it going? Good to see you there. Yep, that's. I mean, that's the thing. It's like when you're running like when you're doing something for the sake of a hobby. Um, why turn it into work? It's like that. That to me doesn't make any sense. It's like, nah, I don't want anything. I don't want anything in my retirement that feels like work. I worked for 26 and a half years um, in my primary career. Prior to that, I was in the military for 8 years. I was, working in a factory for 5 years before I, went to work. Before I entered the military. And it was just I've been working since I was 16 years old up until I was 55 years old. Pretty much nonstop. So now as a retiree, it's like, yeah, I still have my part-time job that I do, working for my union, doing pension consulting, and it's that to me is not work. I just absolutely love it, and have meet great people. Always leaving them with a smile because these are people that are looking at their light at the end of the tunnel as well. So it's never a real, um, it's never a bad. So I shouldn't say never, but usually you get it's like some people that are disappointed that they thought they could retire and it's not quite in line with where they want to be at in retirement. So they have like maybe another year to go, but that's the way it is. Well, there's nothing controversial in pundits' games. No, they are all solid. You know, but they may not like what he has to say. Well, that's what I mean. Like there's I absolutely love Venture Satanis's stuff. I love his work, his take, his adventures and everything. But there are controversial things in them. But he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I haven't met him in person, but just having conversations with him, multiple times and having played in his tables virtually and what he's a great guy. He's a nice guy. Um, but he doesn't have a problem with poking at various things that are outside of gaming that sometimes bring some heat. So he's a controversial figure. I get it. But his game content is just unique and really top notch stuff. Um, I'm going to get to covering stuff on my shelf. That's Mythrog, Mythic Fantasy role playing game that's coming from Varg Vikernes, and probably the most controversial person in this hobby, as much as and still the game content is actually pretty cool. Um, Certainly not like much improved from first edition, but and not as controversial as the stuff in first edition. I get it, but it's still a good game system, and that's how I look at it. I have stuff here. I mean, I have my whole stack of stuff from James Raggi, and a lot of people point to that and be like, "Oh, he's a controversial figure." It's sometimes controversial people are pretty damn creative, and it leads to some good game content out there for you to at least take a look at and get a sense of it before you judge the game content on the person that creates it. So uh, it is what it is. But yeah, that's why I like. Well, that's why I love this hobby, and it's why I like doing what I do because I'm looking at game systems that other people might not look at. I don't think you're going to find a YouTube channel like mine that covers as many different game systems as I do. All right, and the other difference between myself and some of those really large YouTube channels is that you know I can count on three fingers the number of times that people have sent me things as review copies, and then I always go and buy them anyway. Or at least buy aspect of them anyway, whether it's the PDF or whatnot. So yeah, that's not something that I typically, get is, people, hey, take a review copy and check that out, check this out. And then I feel bad about it. I'm like, well, you know what? I really don't want free stuff. I will buy it if I really do like it. And before I do this review, let all of my people know, yeah, I put some skin in the game in this too. I purchased at least a PDF for it before I started talking about it. So other things. So yeah, so that one YouTube channel, which I'm not mentioning or whatnot, just that 170,000 subscribers, and kind of basically saying like he's not willing to go through the changes that he would have to do in order to get that viewership back up again. And I'm like, yeah, it's like they don't really complain about the fact that the viewership is down because you're sticking to the same content that clearly people aren't interested in seeing any longer. They're not interested. I want to just take a look at something really fast. So his his last videos for the last couple of months. First of all, he has like 2 months in between videos in some cases, or a month in between videos, and that's another thing. But 60,000 views, that was his goodbye. All right. 977 views for for almost 180,000 subscribers. I guess that's low. 5,000 views, 1,300 views, 3,000 views, 11,000 views, 5,000, 4,000, 8,000, almost 9,000, 4,000, 5,000, 4,000. So he's getting roughly like on average of, let's say, 6,000 views. All right. I can count on one hand the number of videos that I have with 6,000 views. So let's go popular. So just as a comparison, all right, and actually I can share this screen just as a comparison, just to get onto this little topic a little bit more. So here we have the most views on my channel. Let me make sure that you're seeing the same thing roughly. So Mifrog 4.0, part 1, introduction, my most popular video of all time. All right. That was done 5 years ago, 10K. Next up was the basic fantasy RPG, solo play, pre-planning, 8.8 thousand. Then OSR, why And why do Twitter weirdos fear it? 8.5, right? So slightly controversial video out there. The WotC sabotaging the making of the original D&D 1970 through 77, and how they hate, the original creators. 8.4. All right. And look, they're apologizing for that right now. I was kind of right 2 years ago. All right. Then my coverage of D&D Beckme,
Hey, Bo.
eight 8,000.
Sorry.
Hey, um, does Bo want to jump in? Oh no. Um, then OSR DMs must bend the knee to 5e. So again, another little rant against 5e at the time, and 6.8. Mythrog. Castles of Crusades. All right, made it probably in my top 10. So finally, Castles and Crusades made it into my top 10 at 5. Another Mythrog at 5, and Mythrog has been a big one for me, because, and there's not that much content out there for it, but because it brings in all of that um, that black metal crowd that's also kind of a Varg Vikernes fandom that follow along with it. But that's really where most of it comes from. But yeah, it was a lot of views coming from that stuff, and again, it's the game system itself is not that bad at all. So I don't shy away from doing putting out certain content either. Let's see. What, you have integrity? Gas? Yeah, I try to. I really do try to. I think I, I, I try to pull it off as best I can. Um, Integrity, yes. I'm pretty. Yeah, I'm pretty reliable as far as my integrity goes. Um, I try to be the best person that I can. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I can be. I can be trollish and an asshole online as well, but I try. I try to be a decent person most of the time. It annoys me when I see someone complaining about only getting 30,000 views. Yeah, it's like, oh, and I'm certainly not, I'm certainly not the jealous type either, which is another thing that kind of prevents me from. I'm not an envious kind of person either. I don't, I don't look at like other channels as being competition for me. I don't look at. I look at other channels that are doing well, that I like, and I look to that motivates me to try to stay as close to them as I can. Because I know in many cases, if I'm following them, then other people that follow me are following them as well. So I know that we're all looking at the same, school of fish at the same time. But if I can keep up with them, that it kind of motivates me. Like, hey, I'm still giving them something a little bit different to look at. That and so yeah, we're still swimming in the same pool, and not so distant that they're in a totally different body of water than I. Um, I've seen other channels that just exploded for no real reason, or whatever. At least in my opinion, for no real reason, other than um, they had the right number of people pulling for them, or the right individual people pulling for them. And that's one criticism I do give towards some of these larger YouTube channels is, and I've actually put it out there, and to their merit, they didn't pull the message down, because it was kind of, um, it was kind of saying like, yeah, you're your channel is collapsing. You're getting less and less views, but you also don't do anything to help others out. You're not looking to lift all boats. You're just looking out after yourself and that kind of thing. And you're worried about, oh my gosh, I only got 30,000 views on this video. And, um, when I go in there and I look to see, well, what other channels do you feature? And it's their own second channel. It's like, well, there is the function on here where you can look at featured channels. As a matter of fact, I will show you exactly, what I do with mine, and you know, and say like these larger channels. If I'm doing it, and I'm a tiny channel. If I'm doing it, they can certainly do it. So when I go down here, there is a section here, um, where I go and see popular videos, shorts, featured channels. Look, so here we have Decado, right? Here we have the RPG Grandma. All right, you see these are smaller channels. Listen, go to them and sub. All right, they have awesome channels. All right, they're just small. Um, Shadow and Sun. All right, then James, and then Legion of Myth. Legion of Myth is the largest of the featured channels that I have in my features, and go check them out too. All right, so any of these individuals here, I go to these monstrously sized channels that have 170,000, 200,000, and you look to see who are they featuring. They're featuring other people with 150, 200,000, videos, because they want to get some of their clout, and create like a circle jerk of clout, amongst them. And they don't do anything to help smaller channels out there. That is more than likely a slightly different audience than they have now, and they'll drive up their views if they start promoting smaller channels. All right, and I honestly believe that. I believe that these smaller channels, such as mine or whatever, they may not look at those larger channels at all. They're just looking for these. Now, me, I'm an academic, right? So I follow. I have to shrink this down so I can get a good sense of it. Um, my subscriptions, I follow. Let's see if they give me the number. No, it's doing the wrong view. I can't bring it up right now, but I follow something like 260 channels. Now, do I watch them all the time? All the time? No. Um, but I do get to most of them. I would say on a monthly basis for sure. Some I watch, more frequently, like probably my top 50 or so. I watch them, you know, throughout the week or 2 weeks. Certainly get to all 50 of them during the 2 weeks. But for the most part, it's I have these small channels in there, and I do try to watch them as much as I can. Uh, Dungeon tubing is dead. Just ask the dungeon tubers. Yeah, well, they're all making the same complaints, Bo. They're all saying the same things. I'm not getting the same views as I used to get. Well, because you're you're too focused, as much as you might try to deny it. Um, your entire following came from 5e, and you're still trying to walk the tightrope, between, well, I'm not a D&D shill, I'm not a WotC shill, I should say. I'm not a WotC shill, but anytime they come out with something, I'm going to get my review copy of it, and I'm going to talk it up. All right, and I'll seed in a few little minor criticisms in there of it, just so I can be like, oh no, it wasn't a glowing review. It was just it was a straight review of it. Um, and then one of them is like, hey, I'm selling off all of these things, right? And they're all review copies. You know damn well that they're selling off review copies, and it's like, all right, so now you're going to, make some money off of something that you got for free. And that's, you know, no wonder you are, it's running dry. You've ran the well dry on 5e. Uh, Expand, go elsewhere. So let's see. Those are good ones. Yeah, the ones that are, you know, ones that are going around. Yeah, thank you. Um, and then these night, new name for me, so welcome. Yeah, no has been shills. Yeah. Yeah, there have been others that have like just totally disappeared. Now I give them more credit when they take their whole channel down, you know. But very few have ever done that because they're still getting advertisement from having old videos. I can't tell you the number of times I'll have somebody dredge up a video from my own channel that that is like 7 years old, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, what I said then 7 years ago might be different, a different way that I look at that game system now. I haven't looked at that game system in 7 years. Um, I mean, perfect example when I looked at my video from 7 years ago at Lion and Dragon, I was like, oh my god, I was like, my camera was like, what do you call them, a potato camera. So my potato camera was terrible. My sound was terrible. Like everything was like, not that everything's like a phenomenal presentation now, but I was like, geez, I was using like a top down camera. I didn't even have the PDF at the time for Lion and Dragon, and so I was like, I'm gonna just redo this series, going through the game system, because I think the game system is interesting enough to actually give it some full coverage. Yeah, they're trying to make it a job, so they can learn to code. Yeah, yeah, they're trying for it to become um, a this is my retirement plan, and yeah, it's not ever going to be that, because eventually, you know, um, I mean, and Wizards of the Coast had said this, right? So Wizards of the Coast had said that their key demographics is from like early 20s to about 28 or 29 years old. And then all of a sudden, once they get to the 30s, and certainly by like 35, none of those people that started are still playing. They've left the hobby completely. And they were doing, now this was like probably about 5, 6 years ago, that they were putting out, this talk. So long before the OGL crisis, long before all of that, and they were talking about it. We're like, it was the same time that they came out and they said, the average 5e campaign lasts 6 sessions. All right, and then it ends. It ends with their characters walking away, being superheroes, and the players have no interest playing those characters anymore. They may not have any interest of playing the game any longer either. They feel like, all right, I've done this and now I can move on. It's almost like they've completed a video game. How many video games have you completed, in your during your gaming time? It's like, I look at like World of Warcraft. I must have played every character class to level 20. All right, and then I walk away from World of Warcraft for, you know 5 years, 6 years, and then I pick it up again, and I'll pick up another, character if they come out with a new character class, and I'll play it till like level 20, and then I leave because it becomes too much of a grind after that. And that's exactly how they're looking at D&D or any of the mainstream um, tabletop role playing games out there. It's like, you know what? It's not doing enough to keep my interest going, and that's going to be reflected in your views on your YouTube channel if that's what you're fully dedicated to. And they give glowing reviews to keep the free stuff coming. Yeah, it's like, um, yeah. Speaking of circle jerks, did you have a follow up on this? Speaking of, or that's just talking about this here. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I want people to keep on coming to me and bringing stuff in. You will never see me making an announcement on public. Hey, I'm shutting this thing down. All right. Or I'm not getting enough views. I'm going to shut this down now. No, it's just, it's just not something. It's like when I say, this isn't an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. Um, same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. The demographics that treats it like a video game, or the somehow won, so they don't, so they're done and walk away. Yeah, yeah. That's the biggest thing. I learned that. I learned that from my niece, who's, she was a college student. Now she's a professional. She's a production manager of an anime company in Atlanta. But she spent her whole college time in graphic design, playing D&D, and so playing fifth edition D&D in particular. So when I purged everything Wizards of the Coast from my shelf behind me, I was like, you know what? I gave her my four books of 5e. I gave her the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual, along with the Guide to the Savage Coast. Coast. Those were the only four books of 5e that I owned. So I gave it to her because I knew she was a huge fan of, and she loved playing D&D. When I gave it to her, she was so excited because, and this is almost a direct quote. She says, "Oh my gosh, I'm the first person in all of the 30 players that I have, that I've played with at her college. I'm the first person to actually have the books." She said one person had photocopied off just the sections of the player's handbook that they were going to use, and they had a Xerox copied off, a photocopied off copy of the Monster Manual, and that's all of her college friends. That's all that they used was these copies that they shared out with each other. She was like, "I'm so excited! I'm the only one with the actual books in hand," and I was like, "That is not something that is uncommon. I think amongst the college age people there is that they, you know, they just don't have the expendable money to do it. And if they're only going to be playing it for like 6 weeks, why invest that kind of money into it?" Um, Wizards of the Coast made a huge mistake telling people like me and others like me, um, that are people that build collections like you see behind me. Um, no, you can't get out of this hobby fast enough. And it's like, okay, I will take my money elsewhere. And now they're hurting for it. I know that they are.
Yeah, seems like you'd want the, collectors in your in your hobby game.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you want the people that have a expendable income, which college students don't, and you want them there to be like, hey, you know what, this is something that's really cool. I want to, add it to my collection here. And if I have books that I will never run, but I love having them because I've read through them. I pulled some ideas from them or whatnot. Younger people, they're only going to buy what they're going to use. And that's the other thing that Wizards of the Coast lost sight of. This one reason why these people don't know the rules. Yeah. Oh yeah, they don't know all of the rules. Yeah. Well, even Critical Role doesn't use all of the rules, and they freely admit it too. It's like, no, we just, they just do what the rule of cool is, right? Whatever's going to be fun to play at the table, and for entertainment purposes, what's going to be fun to see, and that's what they put out there. And why D&D makes no money for Hasbro? Yeah, it really doesn't, or it makes so little that it's not the most cost effective way for them to model it. Not the D&D tabletop role playing game is making them money. Um, they are making money from product placement, right? From their limited licensing deals like they did with Larian Studios to make Baldur's Gate 3,
Yep.
and some of the other things that they're going to be doing that are, going to be generating money, not based on, you know, no one played Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to make I shouldn't say no one, but a minuscule number of people played Baldur's 3 for the first time and then says, hey, I'm going to start playing Dungeons and Dragons now. No. They were fans of the video game. That's not going to translate to being fans of 5e. Same thing with Stranger Things. When Stranger Things first came out, I had two daughters, 14 and 11, at the time, and tried to convince them. I forget how long ago Stranger Things came out, but maybe they were a little bit older than that. But both teen girls, um, both loved reading. Both was I was like, hey, you know what, I bought the Stranger Things D&D box set. I was like, hey, why don't you come over, this is the game that they're playing. you know um, you know why don't we all sit down and I'll teach you how to play this game? Oh no, we don't want to play the game. Well, it's like, well, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons on Stranger Things. And then we're like, yeah, that's not why we watch Stranger Things. So I was like, first of all, they didn't even know what Dungeons and Dragons was really. And they were like, no, that's not, we just like the boys. That's what they watched it for. They each had a crush on one of the boys, in the show, and that's all that they did. Once the show ended, it was like, all right, it's like the posters came down off the walls, and it's done. You know, they will never go back and watch Stranger Things again. All right, so it's not even something that was so impressed upon them that they'll watch what those actors do now, in future projects, but they're not going to go back and watch Stranger Things again. So yeah, so a little bit of a thing on these things. I wish I could go back and shrink this down. Maybe I could do it this way. I was trying to see. Oh, that's how I do it. Yeah, I was trying to see the number of subscriptions before, but it's a lot. I follow a lot of different channels here. Um, and yeah, it was kind of, I would argue, let's see. I would argue that Stranger Things box set is not the game they played on there. Oh no, it absolutely isn't. Which I thought was a monumental mistake for them. All right, a monumental mistake. That should have been a reprinting of Redbox. That absolutely went.
Yeah.
They own the freaking IP. They would have made money from it regardless, and they would have brought more of us to it if they repackaged, re did new layouts, um, maintained some of the original art, but did other parts to it as well, and repackaged it. It would have sold like hotcakes. Meanwhile, it sold for what, about $8 at one point. It was like they were just trying to get rid of it. So there's yeah, it's not, and it's still not the D&D that they played in the show, even in its fifth season. You know, it was still a D&D first edition in its latter seasons. Yeah, his Will's D&D books get ruined in the rain. Almost made me cry. Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully they were replicas. They were.
Most likely they were replicas.
Yeah, yeah. Most likely they were replicas. So, but anyway, the the thing is that some of these channels that are out there that are oh, we're not getting the same coverage that we used to get. Um, yeah, that's going to happen when a game system is been running for so long, and it's you've all covered it so much, and there's nothing else left to talk about it. Reprinting the red box so a whole new generation could cry when Bartle kills Alina, the cleric. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? It's like it would give them true, it would give them true Dungeons and Dragons, what Dungeons and Dragons was meant to be. Um, Probably no better example of an introductory starter box that exists. All
Yep.
right. I will say that. That is the best system. Oh, the best way of introducing new players to it is that red box. And the reason why I like it, and I like it better than the rules cyclopedia. And my problem with the rules cyclopedia has always been when you hand the rules cyclopedia to a new player, they can look to see, well, what is my character going to be like when the 30th level, 36th level, whatever it goes up to. All right. Instead, I'd rather give them each in their order. You're going to get the basic. You're only going to focus on what your character can do from levels 1 to 3. All right. Now you're going to get 4 to 9. Now you're going to get to 10 through 14, and so on and so forth. Right. It's better to give them just the small chunks at a time. All right. That way they're not overthinking and projecting forward. Almost like they do with their backstories. Their backstories are not just backstories. Their backstories are forward projecting stories as well, which kind of ruins the whole thing. And that's why they fall apart when their characters die. Because oh no, he can't die. He's going to be a king someday. I was like, well,
It might not happen.
yeah, that's not happening now. Well,
Look,
where's
I've
the
had
resurrection? Where's the resurrection? How's your first level character that hasn't done a goddamn thing but die in the first 5 minutes of his first
gonna
adventure?
afford a
Know a
resurrection.
16th level cleric.
Yeah. I mean, either know a 16th level cleric or afford a resurrection.
Yeah,
Good luck on that one. If anything, I might give my characters some kind of like goal, but I'm not going to like be too upset if that character dies.
yeah,
Actually, that's usually where it's most fun. Your character dies in some fashion.
yes, yeah. You can play those things for decades.
Yeah.
Those two boxes. You really could. Yes, I know. Correct. It wasn't designed for new players. All right. But it is the best compilation of all of the basic rule sets. But you're right. It wasn't not designed. It was designed for reference material. But you could run it. You could run from it, obviously. But yeah, I agree with you. So
Yeah.
so yeah. So I am going to. So I am going to finish off StarQuest session one. I'm looking at Bear. Bear is running his first session of StarQuest, which is the game system he's working on.
That's cool.
Um, so yeah, I'm going to definitely check that out once we wrap up here. We're going to probably wrap up here in a few minutes.
You know,
We're coming up on my typical 2 hour mark. So anyway, yeah. So projecting forward to next weekend. So next weekend on Sunday, I am going to be doing a recap of OSRCon. So really looking forward to doing that. And then the following Sunday, I will be doing of a recap of Rising Phoenix. So that is going to be April 19th and then April 26th. April 26th will be the last live stream for the month, which means I'll be giving out a whole bunch of some more new memberships. Let's see, now I could run a game with Rule Cyclopedia. Then not so much. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, once you've mastered it and everything like that, Rule Cyclopedia, you'll know what you want to use. I would have to put like 50 to 100 tabs in there, just marking off. I want to use this. I want to use that. It's so bulky, though. So much content in that. Um, I would still run a D&D basic using the red box first. And that's always a game system that I would go back to. Like I've done several D&D basic campaigns these past, let's say, 5 years. I did two. I did an 8 month long before it kind of fell apart. People going their own separate ways, and then a 10 month long before I went right into my AD&D campaign that I ran for 2 years and 3 months or so. Um, so yeah, D&D BECME and D&D, the basic set of that is something that I will most likely go back to and run another campaign in that again. Um, but essentially it's like Shadow Dark, it's like OSC or whatever, but I'd still go back to BECME anyway. The people I know in that generation all rely on one person with D&D Beyond purchase that everyone would leech off of. Yeah, yeah. It's like when Cynthia Williams said, the former CEO of WotC, had said, "Well, D&D is under monetized." Um, it's because they they didn't separate the content enough where you know um, their source books had adventures in them so that players wouldn't buy the source book because then it would spoil the adventure. It was like their adventure modules were not modules. They were there were bulk books that were running levels 1 through 10, and everything was like once they run it, they were like, all right, I'm done playing this game. I'm bored with it now. It was just not designed the same way that TSR, I think, did a better job of marketing the continuation of just new purchases. Not so much from its hardcover books because those were, once you owned them. I mean, I'm still using 40, 45, 50-year-old copies well, 40, 47-year-old copies of those things. Um, but the modules were where I think they were probably making more money from. And, they need to go back to, I think, making the standard module from back in the day, map on the hard, the hardcover part. Oh, not hardcover, but you know what I mean. And then a booklet, like 32-page adventure module, that they would probably sell now for like $20 a pop, and they would make money. They would make a lot more money doing it that way. I think than doing these, mega, hardcover book for $50, and it's taking them from levels 1 through 10. Those old adventure modules, you might not even level once after running through one of them, or maybe if you did, you leveled once during one, and then that's it. Then you would buy another module to go and level up another level.
I gotta say that last comment makes me feel bad because that's what I've been doing, was leeching off of everybody. I might need to start buying some of these things.
Well, if you're primarily playing, you really don't. You just have to,
Yeah,
you know, have your own set of dice. It's
yeah,
like you end up buying more when you're a game
a
master.
DM.
That's for
Yeah.
certain. But
Well, to be fair, one of them I can't even get anyway. It was like a homebrewed version of third edition RuneQuest. Not much of that I can do about that.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's like if they made stuff that was exclusively for players
Yeah.
and not intermixed with DM content in it, then they would sell more stuff to players. But anyway, all right. Well, thank you all for coming on in. I'm going to wrap this thing up, and I will be seeing you next Sunday for, as I said, for a recap of OSR Con, first year for it. So really excited about it. And Tim, I will see you on Tuesday,
Yep.
and then on Thursday.
I'll
So,
see you.
yep. Yeah, hopefully Thursday pulls off. Hopefully everybody comes
Yeah.
together for Thursday. I'm looking forward to it.
Have you wait? Have you actually gotten a hold of Flamingo recently?
I reached out to him. I haven't seen him online either.
I'm kind of worried about that. Then
Well, let
hope
me see.
nothing's wrong.
Like, was he in? Oh, there. I see Doc now. So Doc
Okay.
is in Bears game right now.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
So at least he's well.
Yeah,
So
I was kind of worried about that actually.
yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah. So anyway, thanks a lot, everyone. You take care, Tim. I'll see you, like I said, on Tuesday night.
I'll say, and thanks for having me
All
on
right.
here.